standard form of complex number a plus bi. So this is the standard form a plus bi. A and b are real numbers, so such as -1, +1, 2, 5, 10, -100, so on and so forth. And then the I, so if this is your first time studying complex number, I is equals to square root of -1. And then in the past, I said that square root of negative is undefined. Actually, the square root of negative is not a real number. The square root of negative is an imaginary number. So I stands for imaginary. I is equals to square root of 1. So if you square both sides, I square is equals to past 1. Alright, so when you square the square root, you get rid of the square root. So I square is equals to -1, imaginary number. So let's write a couple examples of standard form of a complex number. So let's say 2 plus 3i, 2 and 3 are real numbers, I is imaginary number, and then -4 plus 5i, 1 minus 2i, -7 minus 10i, so on and so forth. So what happened when a is equals to 0? So when a is equals to 0, you have 0 plus bi, then you have a bi only. So bi is called pure imaginary number. So let's say 4i minus 2i, 5i, minus 5i, or you can say just 1i or -i. All right, and then the next one, we have a complex number. So this box, imagine this box stands for complex number. Real numbers and imaginary numbers are subsets of complex numbers. So let's say complex number is a big group, and then within this big group, we have two members. One is real number, the other one is imaginary number, because in order to write a complex number, so let's say 3 plus 3i, you will have to use real numbers and imaginary numbers. So they are both the members of complex number. So under what circumstances do you use complex number? The most typical example is solving a quadratic equation. So let's say you have x squared plus 3x plus 10 equals to 0. You are asked to solve for x using quadratic formula. So this quadratic equation, the leading coefficient is a equals to 1, and then the coefficient of the first power is 3. The constant is equals to 0. You plug in a, b, and c to the quadratic formula. What do you get? You have x equals to -3 plus or minus b squared, which is 3 times 3, equals to, I will just write 3 squared minus 4 times a times c, right? And then divided by 2 times a. All right, 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. And then you have x equals to -3 plus or minus, so 3 times 3 is 9, so you have 9 minus 40, you will get a negative for sure, divided by 2, and then what do you have? You have x equals to -3 plus or minus negative square root of -1 divided by 2, right? And then before studying complex number, when you reach to this point, you will say, all right, we have square root of negative, so therefore there is no solution. So actually you should say the answer is not a real number. So how do we take care of -31? Let me show you how. -3 plus or minus, so this is a -1 times a 31 divided by 2, and then since the square root of -1 is equals to I, then you write this. Then you write x equals to -3 plus or minus square root of 31. The square root of -1 is equals to I, and then divided by 2 to make this look like the standard form, that is equals to -3 divided by 2. 1 for plus, 1 for minus. You have square root of 31 divided by 2, and then you put the I over here. This is in standard form of a complex number. And then what is A? A is these two fractions. So for a and b, a is equals to -3 divided by 2. There are two b's, one for the plus, one for the minus, and then the imaginary number is I, which is equals to square root of -1. So when you are thinking about I square, you square the square root of -1, then you get -1. So I square is equals to -1. Alright, so that is the basic introduction to standard form of a complex number. If you like the way I teach this, give me a thumbs up, a subscribe, and I will meet you all in the next lesson. Signing out.